The dirigible Los Angeles flipped upside down after a strong Atlantic wind turned its bow downward in Lakehurst, New Jersey in 1926. Measuring 700 feet in length, the aircraft tilted drastically, but slowly righted itself without significant damage. The 25-person crew escaped without serious injury, making this one of the most impressive dirigible incidents. Chinese sailor Poon Lim was aboard a British merchant ship when it was sunk by a German submarine on November 23, 1942. He survived the attack and found an 8-foot raft with some supplies. For 133 days, he used improvised techniques to survive alone at sea until he was finally rescued near the Brazilian coast. Mechanics and inspectors from TWA performed spring maintenance on aircraft at LaGuardia Field, New York, wearing propeller caps as protection. The scene was recorded on May 8, 1941, as they worked on large transport planes. The improvised equipment helped reduce noise and protect against debris during inspections and repairs. Swedish airline stewardess Birgitta Lindman inspects the bold and innovative stewardess uniform proposed for Scandinavian Airlines in 1958. The uniform, which included vibrant colors and a modern design, was daring for the time but was not approved, being considered too ahead of its time, especially in an era still conservative. American Marines hold enlarged models of rifles at Camp Pendleton in October 1956. These giant replicas were created for training and exhibition purposes, likely to demonstrate the maintenance and operation of weapons at a larger scale. Marine training involved careful handling of various weapons, and these models helped visualize the techniques. Edward Llewellyn returns with a giant Black Sea base weighing 425 pounds, the largest ever caught in the world, in 1903. Alone, he managed to bring the fish home, an impressive feat for the time. The catch occurred off the coast of California, where these giant fish live in deep waters. Llewellyn's record remained unbeaten for decades, becoming a legend in sport fishing. Asbestos fire suits designed for the Royal Navy's Air Branch are displayed in a factory in the UK on October 14, 1940. These heat-resistant suits were used to protect rescue crews from fires in aircraft and ships. Later, it was discovered that asbestos causes severe respiratory diseases, such as asbestosis and lung cancer. Vendor Mike Dreschler refuels his motorized roller skates at a Sunoco station in Hartford, Connecticut in the 1950s. Produced by the Motorized Roller Skate Company, these skates cost $250 and reached 17 mm, but weighed 19 pounds and lacked brakes. Their high cost and lack of safety features prevented them from becoming popular, making them a curiosity of the time. A pigeon equipped with a small camera, part of an experiment developed by the German Julius Neubronner before and during the war years. The birds were trained to fly with the equipment, which automatically captured aerial images via a timer mechanism. This technique was one of the first uses of aerial photography for military reconnaissance and espionage. British soldiers inspecting captured German Goliath tank destroyers during the 1940s. These cable-controlled vehicles were small tanks loaded with explosives designed to pass under enemy vehicles and detonate. Each Goliath could carry about 130 to 220 pounds of explosives and was used to destroy tanks, bridges, and fortresses. A futuristic gas station in Kiev, Ukraine, in 1979 features pumps suspended in the shape of flying saucers. This unusual design allowed drivers to stop under the structures to fuel without leaving their cars. During the Soviet era, experimental architectural designs were common, aiming to combine functionality and innovative aesthetics in urban spaces. 105mm shells from an Allied bombing, more than 1 million shells, cover the ground after being fired at German lines in 1916 during World War I. These massive barrages were part of the intense artillery warfare that destroyed large areas of land, leaving landscapes devastated and marked by heavy and continuous bombings. Ernest Shackleton's ship, the Endurance, became trapped in Antarctic ice in 1915, where extreme conditions destroyed its structure. With its sails and ropes frozen, the ship became a hauntingly impressive sight. The crew faced months of struggle for survival until Shackleton led a successful rescue, despite the adversities. A woman uses a phrenology head in 1931, a device designed to measure the shape of the skull and determine personality traits. Phrenology, popular in the early 20th century, claimed that a person's character and abilities could be analyzed by the shape of their head. Although discredited by science, the practice still attracted curiosity and followers at the time. Federico Caprilli demonstrates his horse's skills on a steep incline as part of the Italian Cavalry School in 1906. Recognized for developing the natural riding system, Caprilli revolutionized jump techniques and horse control, allowing greater freedom of movement. His method influenced military training and modern equestrian competitions. A public lighting maintenance vehicle from the Philadelphia Electric Commerce in 1910, designed to make access to light poles easier. The operator drives the vehicle from an elevated platform, allowing repairs and bulb replacements without needing ladders. Powered by electricity, this model was part of early efforts to modernize urban infrastructure maintenance. In 1960, Republic Aviation Corporation developed an experimental spacesuit for lunar surface walks. The design included an oxygen system and internal tripod legs for rest. The hands, shaped like wrenches, were designed for manipulating tools in space. The concept was part of early studies for manned missions beyond Earth's orbit. Annie Edson Taylor, the Queen of the Mist, went over Niagara Falls in 1902 inside a barrel. The first person to accomplish this feat, she used a wooden barrel reinforced with cushions for protection. Although she survived, the adventure didn't bring her the fame and fortune she had hoped for, but it made her a unique historical figure. A crowd of men and boys gathers over the wreckage of a train in Buckeye Park, Lancaster, Ohio in 1896. The collision was staged as a spectacle for around 20,000 spectators, a common practice at the time. After the crash, many climbed on the debris to observe and collect souvenirs. A railway worker, T.C. Peck, was seriously injured by the debris, but survived. A U.S. Air Force lieutenant is escorted by a young North Vietnamese soldier in 1967 after being captured during the Vietnam War. Still wearing his flight suit, he was likely shot down behind enemy lines. Captured American pilots were often taken for interrogation or held in prisoner camps under North Vietnamese control. Patricia O'Keefe, weighing only 140 pounds, carries Wayne Long, weighing 440 pounds, on her back in an impressive display of strength. Since childhood, she stood out for her exceptional strength, according to her coach Barney Fry. Considered one of the strongest girls of her age and size, Patricia amazed people by easily lifting and carrying much larger individuals. A man recreates the use of the dandy horse in 1938, riding one of the first models of this precursor to the bicycle. Invented in the early 1800s, the vehicle had no pedals and was powered by the feet on the ground. Created as an alternative to horses for short-distance travel, the dandy horse was one of the first steps in the evolution of modern bicycles. Technicians carry a 5-megabyte hard drive on a Pan Am aircraft in 1956. IBM's early computers took up entire rooms, and transporting components required significant logistical effort. This unit was part of the IBM 305 REMAC, the first computer with a hard drive weighing nearly a ton and revolutionizing data storage. During Prohibition, before 1933, the fear of being mistaken for a bootlegger was real. This man attached a banner to his car stating, "I am not a bootlegger. Do not shoot. I will stop," and appealed to authorities chasing alcohol traffickers. With gangsters profiting millions in the black market, law enforcement would not hesitate to open fire on fleeing suspects. A human chess match took place in St. Petersburg in 1924, with masters Peter Romanovsky and Ilya Rabinovich facing off. The game featured real horses, Red Army soldiers as black pieces, and Soviet sailors as white. The match lasted 5 hours and was organized to promote chess in the Soviet Union, where the game was valued as an intellectual and strategic tool. During the 1918 flu epidemic, courts in San Francisco held outdoor sessions in Portsmouth Square to avoid crowds in enclosed spaces. With the virus spreading rapidly, measures such as mask wearing and public restrictions were adopted. The pandemic caused thousands of deaths in the city, forcing changes in daily routines, including open-air trials. A police officer directs traffic during the Great Smog of London in 1952, using a torch to be visible amidst the thick fog. The smog, caused by a combination of industrial pollution and smoke, reduced visibility to less than 3 feet in some areas. The event lasted 5 days and caused approximately 12,000 deaths, leading to reforms in the United Kingdom's environmental policies. A snowcat gets stuck over a crevasse in Antarctica during the 1955 Commonwealth Trans-Antarctic Expedition. The vehicle, designed to cross snow-covered terrain, failed to cross the crevasse, highlighting the challenges faced by the expedition led by Sir Vivian Fuchs. The journey was one of the first to cross Antarctica from coast to coast, facing numerous natural obstacles. Gary Moore uses a smoking device to prevent bedclothes from burning. The device keeps the cigarette in a safe position while the user sleeps, preventing accidental fires. The invention was created to increase safety when smoking in bed, a common practice at the time. Moore, the famous television host, popularized this device as a practical solution. Stuntman Fearless Freddy performs a dangerous maneuver in 1921, falling from a ladder suspended from a biplane directly onto a moving car. During the silent film era, daring stunts like this were common, drawing crowds and showcasing the bravery of stunt performers. Without modern safety equipment, these feats were extremely risky and required great precision. An elephant carrying barrels on an American airplane in India in 1945 during World War II. Elephants were used by Allied troops for transportation due to the shortage of fuel and vehicles. With impressive strength, they could carry up to 2,000 pounds in a single trip, making it easier to transport supplies in rural and hard-to-reach areas. American singer Al Jolson, on the set of the film Bar of Wonders in 1934, portraying a black character with blackface makeup, a common but controversial practice at the time. Jolson was one of the first major stars of the talkies and became famous for his theatrical and film performances. The use of blackface was widely accepted in entertainment at the time, but is now seen as racist. Mary Todd Lincoln appears in a portrait taken around 1872, where the image of her deceased husband, Abraham Lincoln, seems to appear behind her. The photo was taken by photographer William H. Mumler, who claimed to capture spirits in his images. Mumler became known for his spiritual photographs, which were actually the result of double exposures, a popular trick among mediums of the time. During World War II, a Mickey Mouse gas mask for children was created, attempting to make it less frightening. The design was approved by the U.S. government to help calm younger individuals in the face of the threat of gas attacks. The mask covered the entire face and included the character's ears, but still maintained its protective function against chemical agents. 2 babies wear protective goggles while receiving sunlight therapy in 1927, a treatment then considered effective against malaria and other diseases. Ultraviolet light was used to strengthen the immune system and stimulate the production of vitamin D. Although it seems like an outdated method, UV lamps continued to be used for these purposes until the 1960s. British runner Percy Hodge demonstrates a perfect hurdle jump while balancing a tray with a bottle and glass. Known for his skill in the 3,000-meter steeplechase, Hodge became the Olympic champion in 1920. This unusual demonstration highlights his precision and control, qualities that helped him win the Olympic competition. A diver demonstrates how he photographed the wreck of the Royal Navy submarine HMS Thetis, tying a camera inside his helmet and triggering the shutter with his teeth. The HMS Thetis sank in 1939 during tests in the Irish Sea, resulting in the deaths of 99 crew members. The images captured helped in the investigation of the accident, which led to changes in naval safety protocols. A female firefighting team poses with their adapted motorcycle in London, 1932. While fire trucks existed at the time, adapted motorcycles were used to reach hard-to-access areas or respond quickly to small fires before larger units arrived. Alvin Shipwreck Kelly celebrates Friday the 13th of October, 1939, by challenging superstition. He hangs upside down on a board suspended from the 54th floor of the Channon Building in Manhattan while dipping donuts. Known for his extreme stunts, Kelly performed risky feats to prove that the date brought no bad luck, daring to defy popular fear in the heights. Airline employees manually organized reservations in 1945 before the introduction of computers. Large boards of index cards and paper records were used to track flights, available seats, and schedules. The system required precision and speed from attendants, who had to constantly update information to ensure efficient reservation control. During World War I, sandbags were stacked inside the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris as protection against possible bombings. Here we see these structures set up to protect the cathedral's interior from damage during enemy attacks. Despite the destruction caused to the city, the cathedral remained relatively intact, with these measures helping preserve the historical heritage. A man uses a mobile phone in his car, adjusting the automatic dialing system in 1957. This two-way radio telephone system was one of the first attempts to make wireless communication accessible for drivers, foreshadowing the evolution of modern cell phones. At the time, this type of technology was expensive and limited, but was a significant step toward mobile communication. Adolf Hitler is shown digging earth with a shovel at a construction site for a new highway in 1930. Such scenes were common in his propaganda, where he presented himself as a leader directly involved in government projects, especially in infrastructure building during the Nazi regime, as part of job creation and public works programs. 4 horse riders crossing the empty streets of Amsterdam on a motorless day, part of the restrictions imposed by the 1973 oil crisis. With cars banned on Sundays to save fuel, the city took on a different rhythm, filled with bicycles, pedestrians, and even horses. The OPEC embargo impacted several countries, leading to unexpected measures to handle the shortage. Anne Elizabeth Hodges shows the damaged ceiling of her home to a policeman and another man after being struck by a meteorite in 1954 in Sylacauga, Alabama. The object fell through the roof and hit her while she was resting on the couch. The police chief confiscated the meteorite and handed it over to the Air Force. This was one of the few documented cases of a person being struck by a meteorite. 4 lumberjacks pose in front of a snow-covered log cabin in Montana, 1901, next to a sign that says, "Wives Wanted." At the time, many men settled in isolated areas to work, facing loneliness and a lack of women in the community. Advertisements like this were common in the Old West, where pioneers sought wives to start families. During the Mexican Revolution in 1913, soldiers developed a tactical trick to protect themselves in battle, using their horses as shields. This technique allowed them to fire while remaining partially covered, using the animal's body to avoid enemy gunfire. In open-air confrontations, where few natural shelters were available, this method provided an advantage in combat. A train was trapped in a snow wall in Minnesota 1881 when snow accumulations reached 11 to 12 feet high, disrupting rail transport. Winter storms in the region often interrupted travel, requiring significant efforts to clear the tracks. On top of the car, a man observes the snow-covered landscape, highlighting the scale of the blizzard that paralyzed the railway. A tree crosses the debris of the Schultz house, destroyed by the Johnstown flood, Pennsylvania, in 1889. The disaster occurred when the South Fork Dam broke, releasing a massive amount of water that devastated the city. The flood swept away buildings, trees, and people, resulting in over 2,200 deaths. It was one of the deadliest floods in U.S. history. A man and his dog wearing gas masks in 1919, reflecting the fears after World War I. During the conflict, chemical weapons were heavily used, leading to the development of protective masks for soldiers and even animals. Even after the war ended, the threat of chemical attacks remained, and dogs trained for military missions were also given this type of protection. At the 1931 Fine Arts Architects Ball, held at the Museum of the City of New York, architects paraded dressed as their own iconic projects. The event featured costumes representing the Empire State Building, the Metropolitan Tower, and the Chrysler Building, among other structures. This celebration highlighted the era's enthusiasm for the city's vertical growth. The infamous Amityville House in New York, 1973, 1 year before the tragic events that made it famous. With its gambrel roof and distinctive windows, it appeared to be a normal, welcoming home, even displaying the motto, "Great Expectations in the Yard." In 1974, the house became the scene of a brutal crime, inspiring the book and movies based on the so-called Amityville Horror. John Smith, a Chippewa Native American from Minnesota, claimed to have lived to 137 years, passing away in 1922. Known as Gaby No Goon Once, or Wrinkled Flesh, his face marked by time impressed those who saw him. Although his actual age is disputed, some believe his appearance was affected by illness. His tombstone in Cass Lake, Minnesota, records his birth in 1784. Kangaroo boxing was a popular attraction in the early 1900s, where trained kangaroos faced clowns or boxers in front of large crowds. In this 1924 photo in Berlin, Germany, a man fights one of these marsupials in a spectacle that mixed entertainment and curiosity. Over time, the practice fell out of favor, criticized for its abusive treatment of animals. A whiskey vending machine draws attention at the second automatic vending exhibition in London, 1960. Although these machines generated interest at the time, they never became popular in U.S. offices. Designed to serve automatic whiskey shots, they were seen as a symbol of modern convenience, but faced concerns about alcohol consumption. Babies settled in makeshift boxes fill the seats of a plane during Operation Baby Lift in 1975, in the final days of the Vietnam War. With South Vietnam collapsing, the U.S. government organized the evacuation of more than 3,000 orphans from Saigon before North Vietnamese troops arrived. The operation was one of the largest humanitarian missions of the war. A man tries to escape to Mexico by jumping over a fence at the El Paso, Texas, border in 1939. At the time, many American fugitives saw Mexico as a refuge, crossing the border to escape the law. The photo captures the exact moment when an offender almost reaches freedom, highlighting how illegal crossings were a common route for those fleeing justice. On March 21, 1947, police received a report about a strong odor coming from the house at 2078 Fifth Avenue, New York. Upon entering, officers found the location completely cluttered, with piles of garbage from floor to ceiling. Inside the residence were the bodies of the Collier brothers, recluses who had hoarded items for decades. The case became one of the most famous examples of compulsive hoarding. Here we see the moment when archaeologists opened the tomb of King Tutankhamun in 1922 in the Valley of the Kings, Egypt. Led by Howard Carter, the team removed the first barriers that had sealed the chamber for over 3,000 years. Inside, they discovered one of archaeology's greatest treasures, including the iconic golden mask of the pharaoh, sparking global fascination and legends of a supposed curse. A member of the Men's Clothing Reform Party walks the streets of London in the 1930s. The group, formed in post-World War I Britain, advocated for more comfortable and functional men's clothing, challenging the era's formal attire. Its members promoted the use of shorts, tunics, and lightweight fabrics, trying to modernize traditional male clothing. A champagne inspector around 1933 uses a special mask to protect herself from exploding bottles. The risk came from incorrect dosage, as excessive sugar added could generate too much internal pressure, causing the bottles to burst. Workers in wineries dealt with this danger daily, and protective gear helped reduce the risk of injury. Passengers on the New York subway travel without newspapers during the 1953 newspaper strike, which lasted 11 days due to labor disputes between typesetters' unions and publications. Without printed editions, the city faced an information void, affecting millions of readers. Normally, New Yorkers would read during their commutes, but the strike left the trains quieter than usual. The coffin beds of the Salvation Army shelter offered a cheap option for the homeless in London around 1900. Known as the four-penny coffin, the shelter allowed someone to spend the night in a small wooden structure resembling a coffin. These shelters were among the first initiatives to help the poor in central London. A huge election billboard covers the facade of a building in Italy in 1934, repeatedly displaying the word "Sì," yes, around a large modernist face of Prime Minister Benito Mussolini. The campaign was part of a referendum held that year to approve the fascist party's single-candidate list, reinforcing the regime's propaganda and its authoritarian image. Sisters Florence and Susie Freiermuth were arrested in 1921 for moonshining during Prohibition, which banned alcohol production and sales in the U.S. Like many bootleggers of the time, they illegally produced alcoholic beverages. Prohibition led to the growth of smuggling and organized crime, making cases like theirs common in the 1920s. Chief Thomas K. Yallop, leader of the Yakima Indian Tribal Council, visits his son, Corporal Bill Yallop, during his training with an Army armored unit at the Yakima Firing Center, Washington. While the chief is mounted on his horse, his son operates an M48 tank, an iron horse now crossing the same plains where Yakima warriors once rode. Bathers are arrested in Chicago for defying a decree that prohibited short bathing suits at beaches. In 1922, inspectors patrolled the shoreline to ensure women wore clothes considered appropriate by society at the time. Strict regulations required the suits to cover most of the body, leading to protests and debates on morality and women's freedom. A winding road in Los Angeles, California, around 1929, catches attention with its unusual design. Nicknamed the Automotive Thriller, the 2,400-foot track had a U-shape and allowed speeds of up to 40 miles per hour, despite some humps reaching 3 feet in height. The design was an experiment to test new sensations in driving. Young pilots refuel during a children's sidecar race in Berlin, 1931. Wearing helmets and protective goggles, the children ride small vehicles inspired by motorcycles with sidecars. Though designed for fun, these races involved risks, as speed, interaction between competitors, and the lack of modern safety protections could lead to falls and collisions. Actress Anita Ekberg confronts paparazzi with a bow and arrow outside her home in 1960 after being followed by them all night. Known for her iconic role in La Dolce Vita, Ekberg was often targeted by sensationalist media, especially in Italy. Frustrated by the constant pursuit, she decided to face the photographers in an unexpected way. A vending machine for worms in 1957 offers bait for fishermen at any time of day. A couple with fishing rods in hand uses the 24-hour service, avoiding the need to dig or buy from stores during business hours. These machines were a practical solution for fishermen who went out at dawn or at night. A Dutch athlete receives a portrait of Adolf Hitler as a sports prize during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. During World War II, the German regime imposed its ideology on various aspects of society, including sports. Prizes like this were used to reinforce Nazi propaganda, even in local athletic events. Open call for Black Cat cast members for a film based on Edgar Allan Poe in 1961. A line of black cats with their owners, all waiting to audition. The felines were a popular choice for mystery and horror films due to their enigmatic appearance and association with the supernatural, which aligned well with the atmosphere of Poe's stories. During a Vienna police lifeboat competition on the Danube River in 1938, two soldiers performed a unique demonstration, swimming with a machine gun mounted on a raft. Using their legs as paddles, they rowed upstream, firing shots to show how modern military methods could overcome natural forces such as floods. Sean Connery signs a coconut for a Jamaican fan in 1962 during the filming of Dr. No, the first James Bond film. The scene takes place while Connery was in the Caribbean, where part of the film was shot. He became known for his popularity with fans and his charisma, becoming a legend of action cinema. A French civilian woman serves a sip of cider to a British soldier with a Bren gun in Lisieux, 1944, during the city's liberation by Allied forces. The scene takes place as British soldiers advance to expel Nazi troops from the region, marking a moment of interaction between civilians and Allies during the fighting.